Alienware X16 2024 model right here in front of me. This is a really interesting laptop. I bought this myself from Best Buy Canada. It's not a cheap laptop by any means. It's kind of a niche laptop, but let me tell you, if you're looking for something that is absurdly powerful for how thin it is, this is the laptop here. I got this thing decked out here with 32 gigabytes of RAM. Nothing special, but still respectable. A 185H Core Ultra 9 processor. Very good processor from Intel. And then I decided to get the RTX 4090 because why not? Money is something that I just like to throw away, apparently. However, this is a very nice laptop. You can see there it's very, very thin. It actually doesn't show up so much on camera because it's got this kind of ring under it. But it's actually about 1 centimeter thick. It's a very thin laptop. Even with the screen down, you can see there it's very, very thin. Not overly heavy, despite the fact that it is a 16-inch laptop with a metal chassis. Very, very nice. A little bit of plastic in here as well, luckily to keep the weight down. Otherwise, it might be actually too heavy. However, this is a very, very interesting laptop. Great screen on this one here, 100% dcip, 1600p, 240 Hz refresh rate. This laptop here is for people who want to have incredible performance. RTX 4090 Core Ultra 9 processor, but still want to have something that's relatively thin. I was shocked at how good the performance is on this laptop for being so thin. I expected it to run, honestly, kind of like crap, considering it's a very thin laptop with extremely impressive specs in it. So without further ado, let's just jump into the review right here, see if this Alienware X16 brand new for 2024 is worth your money, and lots of that money. Okay, and here's a look at the laptop. I actually like the sleek metal to it. The lighter color, it's a nice laptop. Sometimes Alienware has had that like plastic, you know, that white plastic in the past. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of that, but I do like this kind of metal look to it here. It's quite nice. You can see that there. Very nice. It's got this kind of like creamy rubber look to it there. Also very nice. Bottom, nice, just big intake there. Ventilation to get out because the exhaust comes out of either side there. You'll see in the teardown there are massive speakers in there, so that's going to be down firing directly at the user. What doesn't show up so well on camera is just how thin this laptop is. This is a very thin laptop, especially if you don't factor in the screen, for example. Right, so we'll just lift that up there. This is my Framework 13-inch laptop, and you can see there, right, how freaking thin this thing is. And also, you know, the screen's in here, so we'll move the screen out of that there. This is a 13-inch, very thin laptop. Look how close they are in size, right? This Alienware is shockingly thin. It's always hard to show these things on camera. Very, very difficult to show these things on camera. I find that things generally look larger than they actually are on camera, right? This is a very thin laptop. The actual whole laptop is thinner than it looks too, because it has these kind of feet here to raise it up, right? But if you actually look at the laptop here, for example, it's very thin. It's a very thin laptop. It's going to look bigger on camera. It's just unfortunately the way that it is. No ports on the left side, just exhaust. No ports on the right side, just exhaust. All the ports are on the back here. You do have a headphone jack, micro SD card, great for creators. You know, these laptops are, obviously it's going to be great for gaming. A lot of people are going to buy these for gaming, but if you're using it for professional tasks, I mean, this is a great option for you. You get a 4090, which is going to be very powerful in terms of accelerating professional tasks. You're probably going to want a relatively thin laptop. Most creative types do want something thin because they're going to be moving around with it. You get 2 USB-C here. You can see a Thunderbolt sign on that, power delivery display port. HDMI out there. 2 more USB. These are USB-A, 5 gigabit. So that should be relatively fast. It'll run as fast as a SATA SSD can do. That's your micro display out there. So you can also do that. So you have 2 technical, just dedicated outs, and then you have your dedicated power in, your proprietary power in. It's not gonna, I wouldn't call it, you know, the thinnest laptop in the world. I wouldn't call it the lightest laptop in the world because it is metal, right? And it has pretty beefy cooling inside. Realistically, it does have pretty beefy cooling. You can see that there, 2,582 grams, which, yeah, I mean, you're over 5 pounds here. Pretty powerful CPU in here, 185H, high wattage, 185H, and then it also does have that 4090 in here. So this is good. This is a good sign that it's going to be able to supply higher watts, potentially. I don't want some 4090 that can't supply enough watts, realistically. 3,581 grams. Okay, let's get inside the laptop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 2 screws come out. You can see right there. These 2 screws do come out. These ones here are like washered or whatever. They just kind of sit in there, which is good. You're not going to lose them. You do have to take off the 2 back ones here, 1 and 2. You can see that there. And then what you do is you essentially just slide this top up right? It can come right off. You just slide it up just the tiniest little bit. The reason why, as you can see, there's little clips here. So you don't want to just pull that up because you'll break these clips right off and then that'll suck. So you just slide that up just the tiniest little bit and then it comes off. Inside here we just have a sheet of metal, basically, looking good. Basic as it comes, metal, metal, metal. But the actual internals of this laptop are very interesting to me. So I've already looked at it very briefly. You can see here we do have an inverted motherboard. Some people may not like that, but when it comes down to it, I mean, the RAM's not upgradable anyways. It's soldered, and in theory, you're not going to have to repaste your CPU or anything like that. If you do years down the road, I guess. Right, you can flip it over and do that, but I mean, in the immediacy, it should be fine. Inside here, though, we do have 4 fans, which is crazy. 2 and 2. I don't know necessarily what's going on, but there's some kind of heat pipage going underneath them, a theory, or probably a vapor chamber based on the thinness of this laptop, moving probably a lot of air out of there. So we'll see how this was going to run in terms of temperature. I was a little worried about a 4090 in this thing. The 185H can be hot, but it's not the hottest chip out there or anything like that, but a 4090 is a 4090. Even at low watts, it can get relatively hot, and typically you're going to want a 4090 to be at high watts to get more performance. So in theory, you're going to want to run cool so that it can get those watts. 4 fans should hopefully do the trick there. You can see here we do have dual NVMe options here with heat shield installed, a little bit of copper on the flip side. So this one comes with 1. You can get these 1 terabyte, 2, or 4, your pick. Put them in there. You could do them in RAID, or you can leave them solo if you want. There is the Wi-Fi upgradable under there. You can just pop this little thing out here, upgrade the Wi-Fi if need be. We can see what that is a little bit later. Batteries disconnected right now. I was just playing around with the SSD before. These do ship with SN820. As long as they're 4 terabytes, they ship with an SN820, which you can see right here. I did swap the SSD out. Very nice drive, apparently. They're an OEM drive. The battery here is a 90 watt-hour battery, so or 88 technically, I guess. Watt-hour battery there, so that should be pretty good. These Core Ultra 185H can be efficient when they're kind of just parked or whatever doing basic stuff. Obviously, the GPU itself would murder the battery life, but Advanced Optimus should disable the GPU technically when you're Windows, and you'll just be running off that 185H. And then one other cool thing I see here is 4 speakers, and these are the kind of upgraded square higher wattage speakers you can see on some higher end devices like Yoga 9i's, the Alienware M16 and M18. So these should in theory sound really good, and the fact that there's 4 of them and they're firing right at the user, they're going to bounce off the desk and hit you. This thing should have, in theory, incredible sound. We'll see when we get there, but overall it's relatively, I guess, kind of upgradable. RAM is soldered, so get the amount that you want. Dual upgradable NVMe, upgradable Wi-Fi, fans if anything goes wrong, easy to swap out. Battery can be swapped out easily. The only issue would be servicing the CPU and putting on some more thermal solution on there, but in theory you won't have to do that for a laptop like this, at least for years down the road. If you get this laptop and it has heat issues, right off the bat, just send it back and get them to fix it and get a new one or whatever it is. So let's do a quick typing test here. Yeah, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Very nice keyboard. Just like the M16 that I've already tested. There's an M18 video, which may or may not be out by the time this one is out. Same type keyboards, really, really premium here. It's just a really, really nice keyboard. Very snappy. The spacebar is super snappy. All the keys are really snappy. Tons of travel on them. This is getting up there with the likes of, the Lenovo Legions and that, which I consider to be pretty much best in class. This is pretty close. It's really, really, really nice. Typically, I like the Legions more because they have a numpad. Trackpad is relatively small, and you can see it does have that weird light up effect. Very snappy. Extremely sharp click, which I'm finding on these Alienwares. I like that a lot, actually. I don't know why some people like gummy trackpads that just kind of like plunge down. There's just like a gross feeling. I like a snappy trackpad. This is nice. This is all the size I need. I don't need a bigger one. I find that bigger trackpads actually become too unwieldy. It's like Macs did them, and then Windows OEMs were like, let's copy Mac, because that's the cool thing to do. Okay, so we're in this Alienware, what is it called? Alien Control Command Center. In here you can do things like tweak the RGBs. Right now it's set to blue. Oh, I didn't know this could, that can change any color. That's pretty dope, actually. Purple. The blue is actually really nice. I kind of like the blue. Normally I don't like blue that much. I find it kind of, I don't know, depressing. But here you can do that. All zones, for example, make them purple, right? So, very nice. It's per key, so you can change them how you want. Like you can go purple, and then you can go like that, make those blue. Right, oops, I missed the D. Make that blue. Normally I lean towards purple, but I actually kind of like that blue. Of course, you know, the lid alien becomes purple too, so it's just generally a cool thing. So the screen on this laptop is quite nice. We'll just come in here. You can see obviously it's 16 inches there, very nice. And then if we come in here, you can see that it is a 1600p screen. It's fine for 16 inches. I mean, you could get higher resolution, but the thing is, at this resolution here, that 4090 in this laptop should be able to push some very high frame rates. And of course, the CPU is definitely up to the task. The 185H should be fantastic. High refresh rate, 240 hertz. You can go all the way down to 60. You can set it to dynamic, so it'll drop down a bit on battery. I'll leave it up at 240, and when I get to the battery test, I'll drop it down to 60, so that's really nice there. The color space on this laptop is very nice as well. We can come in here and go to a video like this here and have a look. You can see that the reds are very vivid, very vibrant, because this is a dcip3 color space, not an sRGB color space, so very vibrant reds. Good blacks too. I'm not noticing any IPS bleed. Let's bring that down so you can see what I see, something like that. Very, very nice blacks, good reds. We'll come into this other video here. Greens are just absolutely popping off the screen here. Really nice screen. This laptop does obviously appeal towards creators. It's relatively thin and portable. It has a micro SD card. It does have like a gamer look to it. It's not by any means a stealthy looking laptop, but it's very portable. So if you're a creator who needs a ton of power, right, this may be a laptop that you would lean towards, and having a really killer screen obviously is going to enhance your ability to do that type of work. However, on that note, for gamers, I mean, I don't know why people, like gaming laptops should not have crappy screens. That's why OLEDs are taking off now. Because when you're playing games, you want the games to look good. You want them to be vivid and bright and bold and, you know, nice and sharp. And that's why we're getting screens like this on these laptops. This laptop would be a joy to play games on because it's such a beautiful screen. I would highly recommend you watch your headphones. We're going to do an audio test here. This thing had 4 speakers right here firing directly at, and they looked like pretty beefy speakers. So we'll see how this sounds, but I anticipate this thing's going to sound incredible. Yeah, it's going to get very loud, so mind your headphones as I turn this up. What do you expect? It's a quad speaker setup with nice speakers there. It's one of the better laptops I've used. I have tested better laptops. I would say the G16 that I just finished a review of is slightly better. And I think that could be due to the location. Like the G14 has, you know, quad speakers, but they're spaced differently and they're not all 4 just at you. So it has a little bit more of a spatiality to it on the G14. And the very low end bass is a little bit thumpier on the G16. A little bit more spatial audio, I would say, but they're both fantastic. This would be up there with the best. So, I mean, you're getting into MacBook Pro territory. I don't think it's above a MacBook Pro 16-inch. It's just not. But it would be within the realm of a MacBook Pro 14-inch for sure, which is impressive. Okay, so now we're going to do some Cinebench runs, not for scores, just for noise and temperatures. We'll get the Cinebench scores in the benchmark section, but let's... Okay, so there it goes. I'm not sure why the fans took so long to kick in. That was weird. It was like, now the fans took... It just throttled for such a long time before the fans kicked in. That was really strange. Not sure why I did that. Normally you'd want the fans to kick in right away if it needs to, because the score's probably going to suck now as a result. Because the fans weren't doing anything for a while, so it was just being hot. Once the fans are on performance, they're really not that bad, like 50-51. That's pretty quiet for a thin and light laptop with a 185H. Okay, so now we're in high performance mode. The fan should get much louder. Now we're at 57. Still reasonable, but I mean it's a pretty thin laptop. So let's see here in performance mode. We're pulling 75, 100, 115 watts. Wow, that's on this performance mode here. It's a lot of watts. 120, that's a lot of watts. I mean, it's not going to be as much as something like a 13950HX, which is my desktop, which is the laptop that I use on a daily basis, has a behemoth CPU, but it's still a lot of watts, to be honest. That's a lot. Okay, let's have a look at some benchmarks here. We can see here that in silent mode, we're getting actually a pretty darn good score here, 17,691. It is still pulling a lot of watts, and even in silent mode, however, to get there, but it is relatively quiet. Then the normal performance mode, we actually got just a little bit of a boost there, 18,000, still very respectable. And then when we move all the way up to the max performance mode, when you basically hit that little button, it goes into full fan mode, we get a little bit of an extra score, 18,500. So realistically, pretty darn good out of this CPU here. Then you can see here that the SSD that's included is a very fast Gen 4 drive, upper end Gen 4 drive. Basically, this is an OEM version of a Western Digital SN850X. That the Wi-Fi is very fast, about 600 megabytes a second upload download. That's as fast as my Wi-Fi can go. Battery life is actually pretty good on this laptop, considering that it is a very powerful gaming laptop here. At 92%, 100% brightness here. We're getting an average drain here of about 11 watts or so, so that's pretty good. We're going to be getting around 6 hours or so of battery life here, just basically idling, hanging out at full brightness there. And then I did throw on some 1080p 60 YouTube. We did see a slight bump into the amount of watts being drained, 17 watts or so. But again, that's not terrible. Probably get about 5 hours or so, maybe 5.5 if you're lucky on YouTube here. Of course, when you're actually gaming, if you were to game on the battery, it would die extremely fast. But for mixed productivity tasks, you're going to get pretty good battery life out of this laptop here. Okay, here's a look at the webcam here in the Alienware. It's actually pretty far away from me right now, like really far away. And it's got a nice wide angle on it. The colors are a little weird. It's not like the polling rate is fine and everything, but I look kind of like, I don't know, blurry, but also like pale and also red for some reason. But I mean, it's a gaming laptop, whatever, it's fine. It'll get the job done. We'll see how the mic is, but overall, it's not some like crazy, you know, creator professional laptop camera, but it's fine, I guess. Okay, so now I'll do a little bit of 1600p here. Let's see where we're at here for display. So 1600p native, I suppose, very high. So this is the game max on 1600p. But what I do want to show here is how beautiful the screen is. This game is a vivid, beautiful game, and this game looks great on this screen. This is why I don't want crappy screens on a gaming laptop, because look at how nice this looks. Isn't it just so enjoyable to have a beautiful screen on a laptop that you're playing games, especially games like this that look beautiful? Vibrant colors, nice and sharp, very nice. I mean, it's going to run just fine. Very good performance. No need to play around with settings and add DLSS and all that kind of stuff. Just max it. It's a 4090 on 1600p, no problems. Pulling now tons of watts. Okay, so here's some 4K. We are in Horizon Forbidden West here, native 4K. Right? No upscaling, at least not yet. So just native. High, okay. We'll see what we can get here on a native 4K. You can see the GPU pulling crazy watts now, 140 or so, right? We're going to be offloading the CPU a little bit here and hitting the GPU more. So that allows a little bit more watts to go from the CPU into the GPU because it's a higher resolution. Again, we're sharing watts between CPU and GPU on a system like, on any laptop, let alone a system like this that's relatively thin. You know, you just don't have 700 watts to work with, right? So pretty good though. I mean, 50 FPS here, native. Honestly, I think just a little bit of upscaling might get us there. We'll have to see here. Quality, we'll see what that does for us. I just see if we can get 60. Oh yeah, easy. Right, so this laptop here, you can easily hook it up to a 4K monitor like this here. I mean, this game is very hard to run, so you can just play it natively and just get 50 FPS. Or throw on just the first level of upscaling here, which you can't tell that it's on. Man, that looks good. And yeah, it's going to get really good performance here, right? I wonder if we can get by with very high now. Probably not, but I don't know. Because this game actually does look different when you increase. Oh yeah, so this is very high, 4K, just the lightest FSR, just the lightest DLSS. Just a touch to really help that, you know, the GPU get that 4K resolution out. And the GPU here can pull a lot more watts. You can see we're getting up to 160. Again, because we're offloading the CPU a little bit here. You have to be reasonable here. This is actually quite a thin laptop here with a 4090 in it. And the performance here is quite good. So this is pretty impressive. Okay, so it's been a full day of testing on this laptop here, the Alienware X16, brand new model 2024 here, Core Ultra 9 185H. RTX 4090, you guys saw, it does perform very well. My thoughts on this laptop, let's go over the negatives first. Well, it's very expensive. Very expensive laptop. I mean, one way to get the price down would be to make it not as nice, so I guess it's justified in a sense. There definitely is an Alienware premium on this laptop. You are getting a premium for the Core Ultra 9. You are paying a premium for the RTX 4090, the design, yada, 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 the fact that it's so freaking thin. I mean, you're paying for things that at least make sense in this laptop. It's not just overpriced for no reason whatsoever. So at least the price is somewhat justified. Other negatives, I mean, I guess I'm not a big fan of the, like, I don't know, the design is not really for me. However, it's not like, you know, the typical white Alienware that was kind of egregious in the past. I didn't really like that. This isn't exactly my, I would say, aesthetic. At least on the inside, it's relatively stealthy. But it's not exactly my type of aesthetic. However, I can see why people would like it. It's not an ugly laptop. It's not a cheap looking laptop. It's very premium and it's very interesting looking. I think it's just some people will like it, some will not. I mean, you do have like the cool Trackpad here. It's not really my thing again, but it's cool. I can see why people would like it. Very interesting. Other negatives, the speakers in this laptop here these speakers in this laptop here are actually very good. 4 of them here. They produce a lot of bass, excellent sound. However, in gaming, they're a little bit muffled because they're kind of firing down all the time, which is a little weird. I'd like to see potentially, you know, 2 of them sitting where they are is totally fine. Move one over here, one over here. That would sound a little bit better. You get a little more spatial audio and some different places for the sound to come out. Or, I mean, better would be 1 and 1 down there and maybe something firing up there, something like that. I mean, there's not a lot of space in this laptop. It's very thin. They did put a lot of audio in it in general, so it definitely sounds great. It's just that I would prefer if there was a little bit more spacing around the device itself. Pretty minor gripe, to be honest, but it's just something to be aware of. The actual speakers themselves are really good, though. So positives on the laptop, I mean, it's super thin. It's not going to show up on camera. It never does, but this is a very, very thin laptop with an incredibly powerful 4090. You could see here, especially at 4K, but even at 1600p, we were able to push this thing up to like 150 watts. It's pretty impressive for such a thin laptop. The Core Ultra is obviously going to perform very well here. Screen is fantastic, great color space, nice and bright. Not super bright, I'd like to see it a little bit brighter, but overall still bright enough, I would say. Not too bad. 1600p in terms of resolution is great. 240 hertz, I mean, what more could you possibly want out of that? I mean, it's just a really nice laptop. Killer keyboard on this actually as well. The trackpad, you may not like how small it is, but I think it's a fantastic trackpad and it lights up. So isn't that cool? But the keyboard itself is fantastic. So, I mean, realistically, I mean, there's not much to really critique in terms of like quality or anything. There's nothing wrong with this laptop. It's an incredibly nice laptop. It fills a very obvious niche of super, super thin, but incredibly powerful. The only real negative is it's super expensive, but it's not like it's super expensive for no reason. There's lots of brands out there who put out laptops, they're really expensive, and you don't really know why. You're like, why is this $4,000 laptop equipped with like a 4060? You're like, what the hell's going on here? It doesn't make sense. 4090, Core Ultra 9, great screen, adequate amount of RAM, good build quality. I mean, the price actually makes sense though. So if you're looking for the laptop that I would say is probably the thinnest I've seen, yet still is able to really push that 4090. I've tested a lot of 4090s in my day. I have yet to test one that's so thin and able to push those kind of watts, at least so far. This is probably the laptop you'd want to jump into. It's an incredibly performant laptop, nice and thin. It's a little bit niche, I would say, but if this is the type of laptop you're considering right now, it is within your budget. You want something that has incredible specs on such a thin laptop. I can tell you, rest assured, it is very performant and it is very, very nice. If you can justify the cost on this laptop, I think it's actually a really good buy.